We live in a day and age where you can go online and find fantastic tips, guides, and pretty much everything you would need for, well, pretty much anything, video games included. So I went to ChatGPT and asked it to scour the internet and compile a list of the 5 best tips it could for Dark Souls. And then I did the exact opposite. That's right, I beat Dark Souls the wrongest way possible. Here's how it went. Okay, so the way ChatGPT works is, if you ask it for tips or something, it will obviously deliver, but it won't stop at just giving you the basic tips. It breaks them down into points and expands upon them. A couple of the major tips I got were too vague, so I couldn't really do the opposite of them, but in those cases I went for the more detailed breakdown. Let's review them, shall we? Tip number 1 is learn to block, then learn to dodge. Now, this is vague and I really can't unlearn how to block or dodge, but we can look at the breakdown. Blocking with 100% physical damage shield like the boulder shield or the crest shield is safer early game. Okay, so rule number 1 for this run is that I can't use any 100% physical damage shields. Use medium or light armor to keep your equip load under 25% for the fastest roll. So rule number 2 is that the equip load has to be higher than 25%. Tip number 2 is don't level randomly. Okay, this is simple enough. Every time I level up, I'm gonna use a random number generator to select my stats. That way, leveling up will be truly random. So, rule number 3 is level up completely randomly. Tip number 3 is explore thoroughly and don't fear death. Now, this is also kind of vague, but we can work with it, so rule number 4 is that I have to follow the main path. Now, I will say right off the bat that I don't follow this tip exactly like to the letter because I do have to deviate somewhat to get some items that are necessary for me to complete the run. But I won't go to any major optional areas and I won't fight any optional bosses, unless they're mandatory in the context of progressing the main story. There is, however, another interesting point here, which is always retrieve your souls unless it's unsafe, then cut your losses. You know what this means? Rule number 5 is that I cannot retrieve my souls. Tip number 4 is upgrade your weapons, not just your stats. Pretty self-explanatory here. Rule number 6, I can't upgrade my weapons. Tip number 5 is use humanity strategically. What we actually care about in this section is this point. Use it to kindle bonfires, more Estus, and summon help, NPCs or players. So our 7th and final rule for this run is that we can't kindle bonfires.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Let's do it. Alright, I'm just gonna name my character Wrong Gamer here. The class doesn't really matter that much. I just end up picking the warrior. I'm not gonna select any starting gift because I think it's just more fun like that. It's more wrong to be more precise. Alright, and the rest of the settings don't really matter, so let's dive into this. The start is pretty much what you'd expect. Nothing really interesting happens here. We light the bonfire as normal, we run away from the asylum demon as you're supposed to do, we get the shield, and then we get our weapon. Now the shield, as you can see, has 100% physical damage negation, so we can't really use it. We talk to our buddy here and exhaust his dialogue in order to get the Estus flask as well as the key, and then we make our way to the asylum demon. Again, nothing really interesting happens here because at this point in the run you're not supposed to have any stats upgraded or any weapons upgraded, so it's pretty much just a normal playthrough at this point. Oh, but don't worry, it's gonna get very, very brutal going forward, trust me. Anyway, we beat the crap out of the asylum demon and now we can progress to the Firelink Shrine. And now you'll get to see the 3rd rule of this run in action. We can level up 3 times and we're always going to be using a random number generator to decide which stats are gonna get leveled up. I'm just using Google's random number generator and we get 6, 4, and then 6 again, which means we're gonna be leveling up resistance, strength, and resistance again. Obviously not the best RNG, but at least we did get to level up strength once. Alright, now we're gonna make our way to the Undead Burg. We're still at a point where the run is pretty easy and pretty normal, all things considered. We don't have enough souls to level up, so we're gonna head straight to the Taurus Demon. After finding my way through the ads, I finally reached the fog gate, behind which the Taurus Demon lies. Time for the fight. I thought it'd be more fun if I didn't kill the archers that are on the tower behind me, so yeah, we're gonna do this fight the hard way. And dead. Alright, I made my way back here, but remember, we can't actually pick up the runes that we lost, so those are gone forever. Even by this point, you can feel the effect of not being able to upgrade your main stat to do damage, I'm dealing pretty low damage on the Taurus Demon. But after a couple minutes of dodging and attacking, I managed to finally kill the Taurus Demon. And again, I can't pick up my souls. Now naturally, I get hit by the dragon here, and thankfully I didn't die, because I do have quite a lot of souls that I do not want to lose at this point. I unlock the shortcut back to the previous bonfire, and naturally it's time to level up again, which means we have to use the random number generator again. 8, 6, 5, and 6 again, which means that we have to level up faith, resistance, dexterity, and then resistance again. I am absolutely not getting good RNG on the level ups. So far the most leveled up stat is fucking resistance. Literally the most useless one. In any case, we keep making our way through the Undead Parish. I kill the 2 archers here, then use the alluring skull that's here to lure the boar away so that I can safely progress through the map. I'm gonna kill this big knight here because I don't want him to chase me around every time I try to go to the bell gargoyles, and he doesn't actually respawn, so naturally I'm dealing very little damage to him, and I am out of flasks, so that's great. But somehow I am barely able to sneak up a victory on like 2 HP. Now I'm gonna grab the shortcut back to the Firelink Shrine. I can't kindle any bonfires, but the good thing about the Firelink Shrine is that it automatically sets your Estus flasks at 10. We have enough runes to level up twice, which means it's time to use the RNG again. We got 4 and 5, and if it looks weird, it's just because I pressed the mouse quickly, which means we get to level up strength and dexterity. Not too bad, though I would prefer leveling up vigor or endurance. Regardless, it's now time to head back up. I tried to pick up a fight with the knights here, and it goes about as well as you'd expect. So I figure I'd skip the knights and quickly run over to grab the basement key because we do need it to progress. I make my way to the first floor of the cathedral here. I am going to kill this magic user because he doesn't respawn and he's incredibly annoying. But first I gotta deal with the millions of buffed ads. So I methodically kill each and every one of them and then make my way to the magic user. Thankfully this guy isn't much of a threat. He does fall down, but I get the plunge attack and this finishes him off. And now it's time for one of the boss fights I've been dreading the most in this entire run, the Bell Gargoyles. Here's the thing about the gargoyles. If you're dealing a fair amount of damage, they're not that difficult, especially if you manage to kill the first before the second one appears. But we're miles away from dealing a lot of damage in this run, so naturally this is always going to be a 2 versus 1 fight. The fight actually went very well on my first try, almost being able to kill the first gargoyle. Unfortunately though, I didn't pull through, and then it got all downhill from there. The gargoyles were the first real sticking point of this run, taking close to probably like 20 tries to beat. By the way, I was able to cut off the first gargoyle's tail and get the gargoyle tail axe, which is why you're seeing me use it. But after lots and lots of deaths, I was finally able to persevere my way to victory. So I equip the gargoyle helm, and as you can see my equip load is definitely above 25%, and with the gargoyles down we ring the first bell of awakening. It's time to warp back to the Firelink Shrine, and of course it's time for another level up. We get 2, 8, 6, 1, and 6, which means we get to level up attunement, faith, vitality, and resistance twice. Again. I swear to God, I'm not making this up for the sake of content. RNG is just screwing me over. With the first bell down, it's time to start heading towards the depths. I do manage to scrounge up some souls to level up once more in this bonfire. I get to level up, guess what? Faith, and then be on my merry way. I grab the shortcut on my way to the lower Undead Burg. I deal with these unbelievably annoying dogs. I clear the area of ads, I grab the target shield because that's gonna be important for a later fight, and then make my way to the fog gates. By the way, the target shield doesn't have 100% physical damage negation, so I can use it. Now obviously I die almost immediately to the boss, so I run back, avoiding all of the enemies this time, and again immediately die as soon as I enter the boss arena. After a couple more tries, I'm eventually able to get a good run, where I managed to pull the dogs up the staircase, kill them, and then focus my attention on the Krapra demon. And I'm dealing so little damage that it genuinely takes minutes for me to kill this guy. But slowly but surely I whittle him down and eventually manage to kill him. What a horrible boss fight. Now, considering the fact that I have a lot of souls, and the fact that I can't pick them up in the case that I die, the smart thing to do here would be to use a homeward bone to warp back to the previous bonfire. But I do want to unlock the shortcut that leads back to the Firelink Shrine, so against my better judgment, I instead choose not to use a homeward bone and just make my way to the shortcut normally, without any flasks, and with the very, very real risk of losing my souls. I do get pretty low on HP here, but since we can't kindle bonfires, we might as well use the humanities for something, right? So I use a humanity to restore my HP, and this is something that you'll see me do periodically during this run. Humanities are basically like secondary flasks at this point. Anyway, I open the shortcut here and make my way back to the Firelink Shrine. We can level up twice, so let's pull up the random number generator. We get 2 and fucking 6 again, man. I swear this thing is rigged. Anyway, we level up attunement and resistance again, 2 completely useless stats for the way that we're playing. By the way, this dude here shows up in Firelink even if you don't free him from his cage, which I didn't. If you leave him alive, he will kill the Firekeeper, which will render the bonfire in Firelink Shrine useless, which is very, very, very bad. So we kill him by knocking him off the cliff, and now if we quit the game and then load back in, he will have dropped his Ring of Favor and Protection. One of the best rings in Dark Souls 1. And with that little gift, it's time to actually head to the depths this time. I despise these hollows, by the way. They're too erratic and can easily stunlock and gangbang you. Also, the Butcher randomly decides to join in the fight here, which is something that never happened to me before, and I've played Dark Souls 1 a lot. Anyway, after slowly dispatching the ads, I make my way to these barrels here and free this dude, who then relocates to Firelink Shrine and sells you pyromancies if you free him. I thought that maybe using pyromancies would be a good way to enhance the character and the damage that we deal, but it turns out that they're pretty weak if you don't upgrade the pyromancy flame, which obviously we can't in this run. I get jumped by the second Butcher here and I slowly but surely try to kill him. We're dealing very low damage at this point in the run, but that's soon gonna change. Anyway, we don't have the master key, so we're not able to open this door to the depths bonfire, which is sad, considering that if we die, we're gonna spawn back at the Firelink Shrine. Anyway, we make our way through the depths area, killing lots of rats and basilisks. I make the dumb decision here to ignore this guy and not kill him because I didn't want to risk getting killed, and you'll see why that was a mistake a bit later on. Obviously, I completely ignored the giant rat, and after getting thoroughly lost and killing like 100 basilisks, I finally find my way to the end of the depths area. First things first, I unlock the shortcut here, and now marks one of the most important points in this run, all because of this dude right here, the merchant. This guy sells crystal weapons, and crystal weapons in a normal playthrough aren't really that good. Their gimmick is that they deal a lot of damage, even without upgrading them. However, they have limited durability. You can't repair them neither at the blacksmith nor at the bonfires. So during a normal playthrough, you're better off investing in some other type of weapon. However, during this playthrough, these crystal weapons are a godsend. We can't upgrade normal weapons and we can't select which stats to upgrade because we have randomized levels, which means that these crystal weapons offer a consistent way to deal a lot of damage until they break, of course. And due to the fact that we can only get a limited amount of use for them, I'm not going to be using crystal weapons throughout the entire run. I'm going to be using them mostly in boss fights as well as to kill some specific enemies that I need to kill. And now it's time for the Gaping Dragon. Remember when I said that it was a dumb choice not to kill the magic user that was with the rats? Well, it turns out that if you don't kill him, he actually spams you with projectiles from above. Anyway, thankfully, even with that handicap, this fight isn't all that difficult. The Crystal Greatsword allows us to deal a fair amount of damage, not a lot, but certainly much better than what we would deal with a normal weapon. The Gaping Dragon is a huge hit sponge, but the fight isn't actually difficult. It's just a matter of avoiding its attacks, mostly through correct positioning, and just hitting it until it dies. After a few minutes of avoiding its attacks as well as the magic projectiles, we're able to land the finishing blow and kill this thing. And thankfully it only took like 2 points of the durability of the Crystal Greatsword. And by the way, if you're wondering how I can wield the Crystal Greatsword even without having the strength required, if you dual wield a weapon in the Soulsborne games, it actually gives you a 1.5 modifier on your strength. So for example, you would be able to wield a 15 strength weapon with only 10 strength. Anyway, I played safe here and use a homeward bone, even though I'll have to make the trip back to the depths from the Firelink Shrine, but I really don't want to risk losing all these souls, and the next bonfire from the Gaping Dragon is located in the middle of Blighttown. Naturally, it's time for a level up again, and we get 7, 3, 7, 1, 8, and 5, which means we level up Intelligence twice, Endurance once, Vitality once, Faith once, and then Strength once. I mean, hey, at least we got to level up Vitality and Endurance once, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the first time we actually level them up in this entire run. Anyway, I get the Pyromancy Flame from this dude here, and I also use some souls to buy the Fire Orb Pyromancy, but in hindsight, they're really not gonna be that useful for this run. I just didn't know at the time, so I thought it would be a good idea. In any case, now we have to make our way back all the way through the lower Undead Burg, through the depths, and finally to Blighttown. And by the way, I got killed by a slime on my way down here, so that's why my souls are a bit less. I'm obviously not even gonna bother killing anything here, and I'm just gonna rush to the next bonfire. I make it to the next bonfire pretty much unscathed, and now it's time for the annoying part. Actually getting down. Naturally, I fall to my death a few times, but eventually I'm able to reach the bottom. And then die anyway. But after a couple more tries, I'm actually able to reach the bottom and grab the next bonfire. There's really nothing else to do here, so it's time to fight Quelaag. I swap back to the Crystal Greatsword and head inside the Fog Gate. Quelaag is another fairly easy boss fight, and it's one that you can bait for specific attacks, which gives you ample opening to attack the boss. Of course, it does have the explosion attack, and I got stuck here as you can see between its legs, so be on the lookout for that. Aside from that, the only other concern is the boss filling the entire arena with lava, so just be careful where you maneuver yourself. Again, the Crystal Greatsword is great to deal a fair amount of damage even by following these ridiculous rules, and I do manage to kill Quelaag on the second attempt, so that's pretty cool. After that, we ring the second Bell of Awakening and then use a Homeward Bone to warp back to the previous bonfire. Naturally, it's time for a level up again, so let's bring up our random number generator. We get 2, 6, and 4. So we get to level Attunement, Strength, and of course, Resistance. I gotta say, my resistance in not quitting this challenge is starting to plummet. After having rung the 2 Balls of Awakening, it's time to head back to the Firelink Shrine. Now, the more astute of my viewers might be thinking, why are you going that way? You don't have the Master Key. Well, my friend, the answer is very simple. I forgot. I'm so used to just getting the Master Key for every playthrough, so out of habit, I just chose this path to go back to the Firelink Shrine, even though I don't have the key. Which means I have to go through the unbelievably tedious route of heading back the same way I got here. This means climbing back up to the upper part of Blighttown, going through the depths, and then through the lower Undead Burg, until I finally reach the Firelink Shrine. Suffice it to say that I died quite a few times trying this. Anyway, having run the 2 Bells of Awakening, we can now access Sen's Fortress. This is also the first time we're talking to the blacksmith in this run. Now, I use all of my consumable souls here, and the idea originally was to get 20,000 souls to buy the Crest of Artorias. However, I changed my mind because I thought I would just save some souls from fighting the boss fights later on in the game, and I also want to buy the repair box, because we might not be able to upgrade our weapons and armor in this run, but we can repair them. I also buy quite a bit of arrows, you'll see why a bit later on. And since we didn't end up using these souls for the Crest of Artorias, that means it's time to level up. I get 5 and 6, which means we get to level Dexterity, and wouldn't you know it, Resistance. Time to head to Sen's Fortress. Now, Sen's Fortress actually went smoother than expected. I dodged the traps and enemies, managed to get the shortcut to the lever room, dodged even more traps and even more enemies, grabbed the hidden bonfire, and then I went up the tower to kill the golem that's located here. It took approximately 3 to 5 business days considering how little damage I dealt. But the reason why we came up here to kill this guy is that if you don't kill him, he'll keep throwing bombs on you while you're fighting the Iron Golem. With him dead, I equip my trusty Crystal Greatsword and head into the boss arena. I don't have too many things to comment on about the Iron Golem fight, it's just a standard Iron Golem fight. This boss is fairly easy, and even though I'm not dealing a lot of damage, it's still not enough to make this fight really difficult or anything. But right as I'm about to finish off the Iron Golem, this happens. Lovely. So I go back, and this time I actually managed to kill it without much trouble. And this means it's time for Anor Londo. Now the first thing that I do here is obviously grab the bonfire and level up. I get 8, 6, 5, 6, and 7, which means I level up Faith, Resistance twice, Dexterity, as well as Intelligence. How's that for RNG? The next thing that I do is kill these 4 big knights that are here. The reason why I do this is because I need an item, but I don't exactly remember in which chest the item is in, so I just end up killing all 4 of these knights so that I can search them in peace. It turned out that the item was actually inside the Mimic chest, and it is the Crystal Halberd, which is an incredibly useful item that we'll absolutely need later on. After that, I proceed with the rest of Anor Londo. I kill the gargoyle because they're an absolute nuisance if you don't kill them. I go up the rafters, which I nail on my first try, by the way, didn't expect that. I don't tackle with the gargoyle here because I do not want to die before reaching the next bonfire. I grab the bonfire in front of Gwyn's statue, I level up once, and I actually get vitality. Cool. After that, I keep progressing through the level. I manage to make the knight fall to his death, but unfortunately, I get hit by the other knight and die. On my second attempt, this stubborn motherfucker does not fall down and instead just stands there and keeps shooting me with his arrows. So I backtrack a bit and just prompt him to attack me with his melee attack. There you go, and that's that. I grab the bonfire in the room here, and there's really nothing else to talk about in Anor Londo because I head straight to Ornstein and Smough. And this fight was incredibly challenging. This fight took me like probably around 20 attempts, similar to the Bell Gargoyles. It's not just the matter of not dealing enough damage, it's also the matter of my vitality and endurance barely going up since the start of the run. I probably leveled vitality like 3-4 times and endurance like twice or thrice or something. Hell, the biggest boost that I got to my vitality and endurance was from the Ring of Favor and Protection instead of the actual stats. The only small silver lining here is that I'm not even hitting Ornstein that much, so the Crystal Greatsword isn't losing that much durability per attempt. Anyway, after a lot of failed tries, I finally managed to kill Ornstein, and so I get to fight Super Smough. The problem is, I'm out of flasks, so that's why I'm using Humanities to keep me alive. I waste a lot of Humanities at this attempt. I think by the end I'm left with like 3 from I think 10 or 11 that I had coming into this attempt, but it doesn't matter as long as I get to finish this fight right now. If I don't get to finish this fight, then this would have been a massive loss. Thankfully, I managed to pull it off and finish what was without a doubt the hardest challenge of the run so far. With the duo down, it's time to, of course, level up. 5, 8, 7, 4, and 8, which means we get to level Strength, Dexterity, Intelligence, and Faith twice. After that, we talk to Guinevere, who grants us the Lord Vessel, which finally allows us to be able to warp between specific bonfires. The first place we want to go to is the Firelink Shrine. Here we want to talk to Frampt, who will aggressively take us to the Firelink Altar. Here we want to offer the Lord Vessel, because that clears out the golden fog gates that block the access to the later half of the game. And with that, we have officially reached the second and worst half of Dark Souls. Now it's time to hunt down the 4 lords. But first I use some souls here in order to buy some miracles from this guy. I mean, we already got our faith level somewhat high. Might as well just use some miracles, right? Spoiler alert, I'm not actually gonna use miracles. We also need one more thing before we head into Lost Izalith, and that is a bow. So I come to this merchant here in the Undead Burg and buy a bow. Unfortunately, because I wasn't able to break illusory walls during this run, I wasn't able to get the Daughters of Chaos bonfire, and neither was I able to get the Depths bonfire because I didn't have the Master Key, which once again means that I had to make the trip from the Firelink Shrine all the way down to the lower Undead Burg, then the Depths, and finally Blighttown, which I might add I was able to do first try without dying. From there we went to Quielax Arena and finally to the first bonfire of Lost Izalith. Our first boss here is the Ceaseless Discharge. Now, in retrospect, I could have actually fought this guy after my fight with Quelaag in order to get some more levels, because the Golden Fog doesn't actually block his arena, it blocks the arena of the Demon Fire Sage. But, what are you gonna do? I grab the set of armor here that triggers the boss fight, and then I try to make my way back to the entrance in order to chase this guy, but yeah, he kills me immediately. Before I go back in, I swap to my highest fire resistance armor that I have. After that, I tried to stick to the entrance in order to do the cheese, but it doesn't actually work. He just keeps attacking me from a distance. After a couple tries, I decide to look it up, and it turns out that the cheese is possible if you die the first time, but you actually have to run back to where the set of armor was and then run back to the entrance in order to do it. So I do just that, and lo and behold, the cheese actually works and I'm able to kill this boss easily. I'm able to level up once and I actually get vitality, which is pretty refreshing. With the lava gone, we're now able to access the rest of Lost Izalith. For some reason I decide to try and fight this Capra demon here with my not crystal weapon, and yeah, I get my ass kicked. Welp, that's 8,000 souls down the drain. Anyway, I get to this area with the giant worm and it kills me. Yes, I died to the fucking giant worm stuck in the wall. Leave me alone, alright? Anyway, I kill it the second try, grab the bonfire, and then head straight to the next boss. There's really nothing much to say about the Demon Fire Sage. It took a couple tries and it's not a particularly hard or engaging boss fight. Oh yeah, this is peak boss fight design right here. Anyway, after killing this guy, I take the elevator shortcut and head to the first bonfire of the Demon Ruins, because I forgot that there was one just right after this boss fight, and I level up. I get 3 and 5, which means I get to level up endurance and dexterity. The next boss is the Centipede Demon, which is significantly harder than the Demon Fire Sage, mostly because you're restricted to that small patch of ground. After a couple of attempts, I managed to break its claw that turns into a smaller centipede and then kill that, which actually drops the orange charred ring. Having this ring equipped during this fight actually makes the fight significantly easier because you're able to traverse lava, and thus you're not restricted to that small patch of ground, and you're able to dodge the boss's attacks much easier. I managed to kill this boss on my first attempt after equipping the orange shard ring. And as you guys can see, the Crystal Greatsword has definitely taken a beating. For our level up, we get 7 and 1 twice, which means faith and vitality twice. The good thing is that our vitality is going up a bit. The bad thing is that our endurance is really lagging behind. It's time to go to the Bed of Chaos. Naturally, I can't grab the hidden bonfire here because I'm not allowed to break illusory walls, which means that every time we die to the Bed of Chaos, we have to go back all the way from the Centipede Demon boss arena. There is one small deviation we need to take first though, and I know I'm breaking the rule of not deviating from the main path a little bit, but it is what it is. We do need to grab some items to complete this run. And hey, technically I'm not going into any optional areas, at least not for now, nor am I killing any optional bosses, so I'm feeling okay with myself. What we want to do here is kill this bug thing, wherever it is, because it drops the Sunlight Maggot, which is a helm that produces light, and we're gonna need that for our journey to the Tomb of Giants. There are other light sources you can get, but in my experience this is the best one because you can just literally equip it on your head and it produces light. You don't need to equip it in your hand or hold it or anything. And of course I get killed by this dude here on my way back, so that's lovely. So I make the trek back, I kill this lady here, and now it's time for the worst Soulsborne boss fight of all time. On my way to the first core of the boss, it decides to get aggressive and this happens. Once again I make the journey back, and this time I managed to go and break the first core without much issue. But I do die on my way back. Now something cheeky that you can do is actually quit the game after you break the first core, and it will load you back behind the fog wall, so you don't have to risk getting killed on your way back. But I don't do that in this instance. I think that's taking the easy way out and it's kinda cheap, so I make my way back again, and now you'll see why we needed the bow and those arrows. Instead of risking my life to get to the second core, I come to this spot right here and start spamming it with arrows. Eventually one connects and that's it for the second core. After that, all that remains is the actual boss, but I get killed by the boss before I'm even able to attempt the jumping puzzle. On the second attempt I do try the jumping puzzle, but I don't quite stick the landing. And then on my third attempt, success. Thankfully the boss doesn't barrage me with fire while I'm trying to break these roots, because it does that sometimes, and I'm able to kill it in one swing. Time for a level up. I use some souls here to get some extra levels. I get 8, 7, 4, and 8 again, which means I level strength, intelligence, and faith twice. Our next destination is the Duke's Archives. I hit into a little bit of a problem here. The two boars that are in the corridors here will actually chase you in the bonfire room, which will render it inactive, you won't be able to grab it. They are incredibly tanky, and I also don't want to waste the Crystal Greatsword's durability on them. Again, I could have taken the easy way out and just quit the game when I was in the bonfire room, which would reset the enemies and I would be able to grab the bonfire without issue. But again, I didn't want to do that. So instead what I did is run to this spot here, and it turns out they can't actually get past here. They got stuck. So I took my time and slowly killed them both. One of them also dropped the Fangboar helm, which I then equipped. And with that I proceeded to the rest of the Duke's Archives. I'm gonna be completely honest here and say that I just completely fumbled my way through the Duke's Archives. I tried fighting this guy because I thought he might drop a crystal weapon when defeated, but no. Then there's the obligatory death from Sith. The thing here to watch out for is the curse. You don't want to die from a curse buildup. That would be absolutely horrible. Anyway, I die normally, and then it's time to just rush through the remainder of the Duke's Archives. Nothing really important happens here. I just try to avoid all the enemies and painfully make my way to the next bonfire. After that, it's time to go to Sith. And again, I pay no attention to the enemies. There's no reason for me to waste the Crystal Greatsword's durability, low as it is, on normal enemies. I head into the boss arena, but unfortunately, because on your first try there's no fog wall blocking the arena, some clams are able to get through and I die. The second attempt goes much better, but unfortunately, after having served its purpose very well, the Crystal Greatsword finally loses its durability. Not completely, mind you, but it still deals much less damage now. So it's time for a detour again. I head to the Depths Merchant, who actually relocates here after you bargain with him in the depths. I use some souls and then I buy the Crystal Straightsword from him. It's not quite as powerful as the Crystal Greatsword, but it still does a pretty good job. And finally, on my third attempt, I managed to kill Sith once and for all. Another Lord, another level up. This time I get 7, 1, 4, and 1 again, which means that we level Vitality twice, Strength once, and Intelligence once. At least we're getting some upgrades on Vitality, which is always great. Next up are the Catacombs. As usual, I skip almost everything and just go for the levers. The first time I tried to go down, I tried to skip everything, including the Necromancers, but it turns out that the skeletons just fall down with me and I'm not able to kill them, so I'm not able to light the bonfire, and so I die. So on my second attempt, I make sure to kill the Necromancers that are in this vicinity, and then I go down without any trouble. Without wasting any time, I make my way straight to Pinwheel. And even though I'm following this ridiculous set of rules, Pinwheel is still an absolute pushover. Obviously I kill him on the first try and move on to the Tomb of Giants. And this is where the Sunlight Maggot comes into play. As you can see, it produces quite a bit of light, which makes it pretty easy to reach the next bonfire. I haphazardly use some souls and then it's time for a level up. I get 2, which means I get to level up Attunement once. Yay. After that, it's straight to the next bonfire and then Nito. Now, Gravelord Nito is another fight that I've been dreading a lot. I've never been good at Nito, not even on a normal run. Now, the problem isn't so much Nito himself, as much as the annoying ass skeletons that are in the arena with him. These skeletons will keep respawning unless you kill them with a divine weapon, which makes this fight extremely annoying. After quite a few attempts, I was getting nowhere. I was barely even damaging Nito himself, and I didn't want to waste the Crystal Straightsword's durability trying to fight this guy for like 100 times. So I decided that I needed a divine weapon. The problem is that I couldn't just infuse one because in my head that counts as an upgrade. So I looked up my options and found 3 potential candidates. The first is the Crescent Axe. Patches sells that when he relocates to the Firelink Shrine. Great! But the problem is that he doesn't actually relocate to the Firelink Shrine until after you defeat Nito. Now here, I overlooked something very important and I could have potentially not broken the rules of the run by just not overlooking it. I could have actually just killed Patches and he would have dropped the Crescent Axe. But I wasn't aware of that at the time, so I thought that wasn't an option. The second option was the Grant, which is actually dropped by the NPC Invader right here in the Tomb of Giants, but that has a strength requirement of 50 and a faith requirement of 30, so obviously that was out of the table. Even if I farmed for levels, I can still only level up randomly, so it would take probably over 100 level ups to get to those points, which left me with my third and final option, Astora's Straightsword. So I went back to the Depths Merchant and bought the Master Key from him. Then I went to the New Londo ruins from the Firelink Shrine, and from there I went to the Valley of Drakes, which is technically an optional area, and technically it breaks the rules of my run. And the worst part is that I didn't even have to get here. I could have just killed Patches and gotten the Crescent Axe. So if you want to say that I failed my run, I'm perfectly okay with that idea, but I'm still gonna finish the run anyway. The Astora Straight Sword is located beneath the dragon here, and now equipped with a divine weapon, we're ready to fight Nito again. First things first, I kill the skeletons, and with them dead, Nito is not that big of a problem at all. Even though I'm not dealing a lot of damage, it's still quite an easy fight. After a few minutes, Nito is dead, which leaves only one Lord to go. And of course, it's time for another level up. I get 6, 7, and 2, which means I level up Attunement, Resistance, and Intelligence. Hey, it's been a while since we upgraded Resistance, so that's weird. Before we face the final Lord, we need to face one more boss, because we do need one item. The boss is of course the Great Grey Wolf Sif. Now, because I'm a moron and kept forgetting to save up souls to buy the Crest of Artorias from the blacksmith, I'm first going to try to go through the Waterfall route where the Hydra is. I also grabbed the Grass Crest Shield. I mean, might as well, right? We're here anyway. And it only has 95 physical negation and not 100%, which means we can't use it. I also kill this knight just for the small chance that he might drop the Black Knight Halberd. He doesn't. So I try to go up the ladder here, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. And I do not want to try and fight the Hydra right now. So instead I use the Soul of a Great Hero to get 20,000 souls and buy the Crest of Artorias from the blacksmith, which enables us to go through this gate here. And again, I can't grab the hidden bonfire here because I can't go through illusory walls. Thankfully, Sif isn't a particularly challenging boss, especially this late into the game. The biggest challenge comes from me not wanting to kill this poor little doggy who's only doing her job. Anyway, after mercilessly slaughtering an innocent animal, we get the Covenant of Artorias, which allows us to survive in the Abyss. I use some souls and now I'm able to get 2 levels. I get 5 and 4, which means I get to level up strength and dexterity, which is pretty good. Now we're ready to go to the New Londo ruins. Now normally I wouldn't bother with killing the ghosts, I would just run past them. But the reason why I'm killing them is just for the small chance that they drop the Jagged Ghost Blade, which is actually a very good weapon, especially during this run, but I don't end up getting it. I come up to this merchant here and talk to him to receive the key to the seal. I push the lever, which opens up the dam and removes the water from the New Londo ruins. I then unnecessarily risk my life trying to fight the Dark Wraith, and I then warp back to the Firelink Shrine to get 1 additional level. I get a 3, which means I get to level up Endurance once, which is something that hasn't happened for a pretty long time during this run, and now it's time to face the boss fight that I was most afraid of for this entire run. The 4 Kings. Anybody who's played Dark Souls knows the gist of this boss fight. This is basically a DPS check. If you're able to kill each king before the next one shows up, then this fight is actually pretty easy. But if you're not, then you are going to have a very difficult time, as the kings will overwhelm you. Suffice it to say that even the Crystal Straight Sword wasn't doing that much damage at all, so I was having a very tough time. But all hope is not lost, as we do have an ace in the hole. I didn't use it so far because, to be honest, I haven't played Dark Souls 1 in a long time, and I didn't want to use my trump card immediately. I wanted to practice a little bit before using that specific weapon, because it is a weapon that can't be repaired. After getting a decent amount of practice with the 4 Kings, I finally decided to use my trump card. This is our ultimate high-risk, high-reward weapon, a last resort, our Kaioken, if you will. The Crystal Halberd is an incredibly powerful weapon even without upgrading it, but the catch is it only has 20 durability. If we miss our shots with this weapon, then it breaks and our chances of completing this run plummet. As you can see, I'm dealing a pretty decent amount of damage on the Kings, and I'm able to kill each one just before or just after the next one appears. And with that, on my second try with the Crystal Halberd, I'm able to squeeze in a victory. And that is the most intimidating part of the run done, thank God. With all 4 lords vanquished, it's time to return to the Firelink altar and offer up their souls in order to open the gate. And now it's time for the final level up of the run. I use all of my souls and I get 1, 2, and 6, which means I level up Vitality, Attunement, and of course the final stat that gets leveled up in this run is Resistance. I swap to the target shield that we got earlier in the run, and with literally nothing else to do, it's time to head to the final boss fight. Gwyn was much harder than I remember. Now, this is probably due to a combination of me being very rusty in Dark Souls 1, as well as due to the fact that, my levels are random, so I can't, go in with the build that I want. On my earlier attempts, I kept a distance from him to prompt him to use his jumping attack, of which I know the parry timing pretty well. But the more attempts that I did, the more confident I got staying close to him. The only real issue I have staying close to Gwyn is his very fast one-handed sword slash. It has almost no wind-up, so it's very difficult to actually parry. After about a dozen tries, I was able to get him pretty low using the Crystal Straight Sword. After once again getting him very low with the Crystal Straight Sword, I thought, okay, it's time to bring out the big guns. So I swap out to the Crystal Halberd, which still has some durability left, and... our secret weapon does it again. I finally linked the flame, and with that, I am done beating Dark Souls 1 the wrongest way possible. Okay, wrongest way might be a bit of a hyperbole here. Sure, the quote-unquote wrongest way might be, me being on another room trying to mash the buttons with my butt, but I beat Dark Souls a pretty wrong way. Shout out to the Crystal Halberd, which has been an MVP in this run. I couldn't have done it without it. Guys, if you like this style of video, then please let me know in the comments. I'm not gonna be doing another of these challenges soon because I do plan on playing Wuchang Fallen Feathers, but I'm thinking of going with Elden Ring next. What do you guys think? In any case, thank you so much for watching this video, and hey, maybe check out this recommended video next. You might like it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.